The Killer's Game. This is an interesting movie. It's um it's an interesting movie because concept wise this is a great movie. Like on paper this is an awesome movie. The concept of this movie is basically you have this hitman, right? And this hitman, he's been doing it a long time. He's getting ready to retire. He's really feeling the weight of life. You know, because of his job, he's not really been able to sit down, have a relationship, or have kids and settle down, right? He's been all over the world, but it's being a hitman. And so he basically ends up falling in love with this girl, finds out he's going to die, so he puts out a hit for himself so people will kill him. And then the ends up being the diagnosis was incorrect. He's not dying, but there's a whole thing with that. So, concept-wise, this is a really fresh, interesting idea for an action movie. Sure, it's silly. Sure, it's goofy. But let's be real. Some of the best action movies are Speed, bomb on a train, kind of a silly concept, or not a bus on a train, a bomb on a bus. Kind of a silly concept. You know, a lot of action movies are very simple in premise. Yeah, I mean, how many times have we laughed at the idea of John Wick and his fucking dog, you know? These concepts for these great action movies are pretty simple. It's just a matter of how well the action is, how entertaining the movie is, and with a movie like this, where it is trying to make me feel and have a connection with things, or that. And it also just depends on how well it's directed. So, I don't know. Going into this movie from that concept, you got me. That sounds cool. And you got Dave Bautista in it, who I really like. And, you know, Dave Bautista has talked about how, outside, because of Guardians, it really opened some doors for him to get involved in some movies. But he is not able to get roles because so many people don't see him as a movie star or a selling point. And so he hopes that whenever he's in a new movie, that people will show up so he can kind of get out there. And, you know, so you see this movie, and it's another one of those, I'm sorry, I'm going to move this camera because that light is shining in my face and I don't like it. I'm trying to look at the camera, but then you get the light here. So, I don't know, from the concept alone, this movie is pretty great. But where this movie suffers is its execution. This movie needed a better director on hand. There are so many sequences where I could tell there was humor they were going for. And normally when I sit in a movie with an action movie like this in a theater full of people, when there's humor, audience usually laughs whether it's good or bad. This one they didn't. Because I don't even think the way it was structured, sometimes you could tell certain lines were supposed to be funny or they just didn't work. And so like and also there's sequences that just go way too far in the goofy direction, like when he's going to get married at this, he basically, him and this girl finally escape from these people, and then in the car talking about how she's pregnant, then she faints like immediately from bleeding out from an injury, brings her to this church, she wakes up, ends up being okay, then they're like, let's get married, and then the priest is like, well, I guess I'll marry you, but you gotta do a confession. Of course, it's this goofy scene with Dave Bautista going on a long confession because he's a hitman, and that scene's fucking stupid. It just shit like that. I don't know. This movie didn't work for me. The action just wasn't great enough. Like, it was fun action. Like, this is an entertaining movie. I say if you like action movies, it's a C- action movie, but it could have been like an A- action movie because the concept of this movie is brilliant and can be really effective and interesting and different, but instead it's just like a generic action movie that pretends to be stylistic, but it isn't really that stylistic. Like the beginning of the movie, it's got a style to it, and then that style just disappears, and it's just like, okay, like what is this movie? It just didn't work for me. What are your thoughts? Like, share, and subscribe.